Welcome everybody to this previously long abandoned Italian palace. In these recent weeks we've been busy cleaning up and indeed started to move in. But just before we get started with fully fledged episodes covering our story here, I today actually want to invite you on a fully guided tour of the palace. And not only that, I'll exclusively be using the extensive video footage I took of our very first site visit here almost 2 winters ago. And in this way, you'll perhaps be transported to share that very same sense of awe that we had as we walked through its hallowed corridors for the very first time. So let's turn back the clock to February 2024. We'll start at the very top of the palace and end with the stately rooms down below. So starting with those small windows you saw at the very top, we're beginning on the top floor of the central core of the palace. Here we have the nursery rooms, and they also have en-suites, very beautiful ones, clad in marble, each one with its own type of marble. And this is the first of the nursery rooms, the blue nursery room. I love the alcove there. It has quite a French vibe to it. Here we have probably one of the best views looking onto the south garden, stretching off more than 100 meters into the distance and overlooking the hills. Is spectacular even on a midwinter's day. And you'll notice that the corridor even is quite heavily frescoed in these florets, and as we enter the yellow nursery bedroom, slightly less ornate this one, but still full of character, we can see that this ensuite bathroom has its own type of marble, completely different from the gorgeous blue veins of the first that we just saw. Now, testing the electricity as we go is always an interesting task, but every detail seems to be thought of here. We now look down onto the staircase, which, as we follow it further down, leads to the Garibaldi rooms. Giuseppe Garibaldi was the founding father, so to speak, of the modern Italian state, and he was a fairly frequent visitor to this palace. This, in fact, was his bedroom. He visited so often that his furniture and belongings were preserved in this space, and they remained here for more than a century until, unfortunately, just a decade or so ago, they were sold off. But it's a rather small room compared to many others in the palace, but beautifully formed. You'll notice here the plaque dedicated to his visits, and he had, of course, his own private ensuite bathroom. This one, I believe, being Calacatta marble. There are 2 more bedrooms on this wing. They are suites. And as we look out into the north garden, I just want to jump outside and actually give you a little tour of it. This aspect actually being the most ancient part of the palazzo. It has this gorgeous sloping staircase reaching the parterre. The entire courtyard is centered around this antique well dating back more than 500 years. I mean, just look at those details. And as I pan back up, you'll see exactly where the bedrooms are that we were just visiting. As we head back in and carry on where we left off, we'll enter the next bedroom that we find, and a fairly common feature of this palace are these portraits that you'll see above the doors. They're called sopra-porte in Italian. The ensuite again has its own gorgeous marble, this time with a purple hue to the veins. Finally, there is a 3rd bedroom on this wing, and much like the one that came before, it has gorgeous high ceilings with relatively modest frescoing, and instead the artwork being put into these sopra-porte little vignettes. For us, one of the most incredible things were the condition of the bathrooms, especially considering that they were last touched more than a century ago. Heading back to the small staircase, a few steps further would take you to this room here, the long gallery. This is definitely the best spot in the whole home to catch sweeping views of both the north and south gardens, and you can just imagine the beauty of the changing light throughout the day. Now, as we move along to the other side, we'll reach the grand staircase. So each side is flanked by a staircase, a small and a grand. Heading up the steps of the grand staircase, and you'll see the gorgeous vaulting there, which I imagine once did have a marvelous fresco that I hope we can discover and recover. We head down to the two principal bedroom suites of the palace. Walking into the first, this one is a much more generous room than what was seen with Garibaldi's room. Similar proportions, just on a much larger scale. Again, we see those vignettes above the sopraporte, and just like on the opposite side, the bedroom enjoys two forward-facing balconies. But unlike the bedrooms that we previously visited, both of these suites also have very large wardrobe rooms. This one here overlooked by Athena from above. And an addition that is not seen on the other wing is this long wraparound terrace. Finally, moving into the bathroom, I believe this one here would be good old-fashioned Carrara marble. Now, I want to do a deep dive eventually about the story and meaning behind each of these artworks above each of the doors, but that's just on a long list of many things to do. Another curiously French detail could be found with these many inbuilt wardrobes, which is much more of something you'd expect to see in a chateau rather than an Italian palace like this, but I'm not complaining, they're very useful indeed. We now enter into the second primary suite, slightly more reasonably proportioned, but again with its very own large dressing room. One of my favorite things about this wing is that these enormous windows that overlook this gorgeous neoclassical terrace are west-facing, so you of course get fantastic sunsets here. This red marble has made an appearance once or twice before. I believe this is sourced from the Italian city of Verona. Now, leaving this space, your eyes do not deceive you. That is an elevator, which one day we hope to revive. And panning backwards into this more cramped space, fortunately that there you see is the only mold that we spotted in the entire palace, we now reverse into the servants' wing. The much lower ceilings do give the game away here, and unfortunately the living conditions were not quite so generous for these guys. It's interesting how you can see the different hierarchies in play back in the day when this was built, with the two smaller rooms and then the larger one, and I can only imagine that this larger bedroom was for the principal servant of the house. These bedrooms here were connected to a much larger room, which was the stireria, or the ironing room, but I imagine it also functioned much like a recreational space for these guys at the same time. I cannot wait to find the keys for these cupboards and also to explore what is inside. But they didn't have it too bad, because they also had access to their own sweeping terrace with gorgeous views of the south-facing facade. Included, of course, is its bell to keep order and time. It's very fun to see still in action. We enter into the atrium of what is almost a self-contained grand apartment, and here you'll notice where one of the connections to the elevator is. From the atrium, we reach the grand salon. Now, this fireplace is such a one-of-a-kind beauty, and it truly is meant to be center stage there, with the way that everything is harmoniously and symmetrically balanced around it. The quality of the parquet is something that I simply cannot get enough of, but panning upwards, we unfortunately see a hint of what can arguably be called vandalism that occurred to this palace. Some decades ago, there was an auction which stripped the palace bare, and it's for this reason that you'll see these little numbers remaining. And it's only thanks to the Italian state, which stepped in, unfortunately too late, for many of these works that were literally stripped from the walls, but at least the sopraporte were saved. Moving now into the study, we are below the primary bedroom suite, and it has a very similar footprint. And whoever it was long ago who had the foresight to create these almost bank door-like level of security for the shutters throughout the palace needs to be thanked for allowing this place to remain in such good condition. Now we'll peek outside this door, but instead of moving out onto a terrace, we below have a loggia, which is a colonnaded covered terrace, something which is very common from the city of Florence. And peeking out over the side there, you can see that gorgeous Baroque railing of the balcony as well. Can you just imagine sipping your morning espresso in this place? I can't wait. Heading back indoors, we pass through the lounge, with the large veranda now coming into view, also connected to the loggia through that door there, to arrive at the single most famous room of this palace, thanks to my recent videos of this space going viral on many of my socials. I think at last count, they've been seen by more than 30 million people in the last few weeks, which is just mind-boggling. What's a beautiful detail along here are these enormous arched windows, which we now have started to restore, had their own wrought iron flower beds on the outside. And passing through, you'll notice that these enormous glass doors act as a sort of filter, both in terms of light, but I believe also in terms of heat. I'll be reporting back to you on that one as the summer develops. Moving into this additional space, this was once the dining room. And I think that it may be a bit of a wasted space in that regard because there's so many other places where a gorgeous dining table could go. And so our idea instead is to take advantage of all these built-in cupboards to create a new kitchen. More on that soon, but you'll see why we have to relocate the kitchen as I move into what will become the pantry. It's a very narrow, dark space and it connects to another kitchen. This is fairly small by the standards of the palace, and it doesn't make a huge amount of sense because as you're about to see, we move into a third space, which is, yes, that there are 3 kitchens back to back in this palace. And so rather than knocking down the walls, which we'd really rather not do, we want to preserve the footprint of the palace to keep it original, we'll be converting these spaces into something else, perhaps a workshop. We're thinking as a place to restore furniture or for art projects, making use of that gorgeous sink and these phenomenal tiles. And instead moving the kitchen proper to the dining room, and we'll be doing so in a sensitive way, fear not, but a curiosity of these 3 kitchens is how each one is almost from a different era. Heading back to the piano nobile rooms, we pass through a WC, very handy to have at close quarters, and then past the technical room, we finally re-enter back into the atrium. And now for a little change of pace, I'm going to be taking you down into the entrance lobby. But before I show you that, I'm actually going to take you through to the south garden, which connects us to the chapel, one of the most stunning parts of this property. As you enter through the columns just there, as you see, you enter this gloriously frescoed double height space. Unfortunately, sod's law, this is an area that has suffered terrible water damage, whilst most of the rest of the palace has been really well preserved. And so the frescoes here will need a lot of love, care and attention in due course. On the upper floor, you have a balcony where the nobility would have attended mass, and this stunning, unique window like I've never seen anywhere else before. This would connect to a few more private bedroom suites, and the lower ceilings on the corridor give way to the typical very high vaulted ceilings that you'd expect for the high quality, noble principal bedrooms. And in this part of the palace, there's a bit of a mixed bag as to what has and has not been saved from the auctions which stripped the artwork. Sometimes you'll see the sopraporte and other times no. But into this third bedroom, there's this gorgeous cornice that encases the alcove of the bed. Unfortunately, details like this cannot be ripped away, and so it is preserved. Moving into a bathroom that does have light, we have yet another marble. One of the interesting ways that we can start to unpick the story of these different spaces is by looking at where newer interventions have occurred, like this more modern scaldabagno or boiler, meaning this bedroom was more recently in use. The parquet again continues to not disappoint in the slightest. But returning to these string of bedrooms, they all connect to the small veranda. So there are 2 verandas in this palace, and the large one that we've seen before faces west, whilst this one faces east. So each one can catch their respective sunrise and sunset. Sneaking down these final few steps, we enter these 2 very large leisure spaces. This first one being the billiards room, and as we move on through, we then enter into a space which hopefully you'll guess by seeing these sort of outlines on the walls and the floor. This was the library, and the furniture was so fitted to this space and had been with this property for so long, I can only guess centuries, that they effectively just painted around them. Heading back outwards to the stairwell, we see this gorgeously sort of inset and frescoed niche that we need to find an amazing statue for in the future. And I will give you a little peek into that entrance lobby once more. The sunlight here is just fantastic. I can't wait to create some sort of palm court vibe here with some wicker chairs and some beautiful plants. Heading back up again to where we had just been, I'd like to show you a bit more about the veranda. Now, these windows are so gorgeous in their own right. The panels for the shutters are all inset, bespokely made. But let's jump outside and see how the aspect is there, because the structure actually creates its own sort of portico. And below, this was actually used for the kennels, which is why it's being caged off in that way. But perhaps one day in the future, we could recreate this as a space that is maybe the new entrance for a guest wing if we do decide to open these rooms to the public in the future. Passing on by these gorgeous inbuilt consoles. Oh God, I just can't get over these details everywhere. Let me take you down this final cute staircase to the last part of this tour. Now entering into said apartments, there is a little sitting room, and suddenly everything becomes much more humble. We have a kitchen here which is straight out of the 1950s, and everything still works, shockingly. Next to it we have a bathroom in much the same decorative style. We have the sort of washing area and then the WC at the end separated, maybe some sort of old school idea of how to organize these more hygienic spaces. We can then move on to what I suppose would have been the bedroom for the priest, and certainly not glamorous, but we do have graniglia flooring, which I believe in American is called terrazzo, borrowing from the Italian word terrazzo, because often this type of flooring is seen on Italian terraces. A fun thought for the future is how these more simple rooms lend themselves to much more creative thinking when it comes to the interior design. And finally, we have another lounge space used as a storage room. And so you can understand that perhaps this is a space we can play around with more, and maybe why this would be the area that we would consider opening to the public after some restyling and renovations. Not least because it connects to this gorgeous outdoor portico, which would be fabulous for visitors. The inside might seem quite dark, but it's only because all the shutters are closed. And in reality, this place truly is bathed in light. And that's it as we peek out again to the main south facade and look across to the gardens. I hope you've enjoyed this little guided tour. And if you're anything like me, as with this first visit that I recorded, it almost creates more questions than it does answers. And actually, as we're about to begin this journey together, that is perfect. So let me know down below things you'd like to know more about to help guide how I'm going to be shaping this new series, the first episode of which is just around the corner.